against the Washington defense, 275 passing yards, a couple of touchdowns. Maybe he loses another fumble. Possibly runs in another touchdown himself with his legs and runs for 30, 40 yards. So right there, that's, you're talking top 10 quarterback performance for a week. So
let me give you a few other statistics that I was able to find out. New York Giants under Eli Manning were 0-44 when they were trailing by 18 points, and now obviously with Daniel Jones, he's 1-0 when they trail by 18 points or more. Another thing that was interesting when you talk about Daniel Jones is, even though perhaps people question the Giants taking him that high, remember when the Chicago Bears traded up to get their man Mitch Trubisky, right? And then they say, hey, you know what? He's the guy. We'll do what we have to do to get him anyways. I give the Giants credit if that's who their conviction was, Ryan, that they went and got him. Even if they felt the price may have been high or not, or in a certain draft spot, it doesn't matter. It's all about finding your quarterback that's going to last you for a while. And if your scouting department and your personnel department and the front office people are on the same page, then to me, I think it's a really, really good idea to take your guy wherever you're going to take him.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they took him that early. I don't think that any of the teams behind them before their next pick, I think they possibly could have traded up from 16 to get him if they really felt that they and taken one of the top defenders, because their defense needs a lot of help as well. But he was the guy that they wanted, I advocate in fantasy drafts. I advocate for the same thing. You can't always look at ADP, average draft position, or where people are ranked. For me, if I know a guy is not going to come back around to me on my next pick, but it still seems too early to take him, I'm going to take him anyways, because that's the guy I want.
Exactly.
That's how I draft.
Right, and you know what, Ryan, I agree with that. I've covered quite a few NFL drafts, and I've talked to front office people, coaches, and whatnot. You know what I mean? And they don't care. They don't care what the people in the media or the fans think. If this is who they want, they're going to do it. Period. And I don't blame them. I mean, their jobs are on the line if they make a mistake. But meanwhile, they look like geniuses when it works out too. So let's talk about some other players that you mentioned. Kyle Allen, I had never heard of him until this past weekend when Cam Newton was unable to play. Tell me more about Kyle Allen.
Well, Kyle Allen, I think one of the biggest comments that me and another person, one of my brothers, made was that it's amazing how well the Panthers play when they have a quarterback that can complete 70% of their passes. You look at Cam Newton, and he has had 2 years of over 60%. He's had 61.7%, and 1 year in 2019, last year was his highest, or 2018 was his best ever at 67.9%. You look at his MVP year, he only completed 59.8% of his passes, but threw for 3,800 yards, 35 touchdowns. He's not come anywhere close to 30 touchdowns passing in any other year of his career. And so I think that Kyle is more of I want to be careful how I say this. He is more of a pocket passer. I think that Cam Newton can be that, but he's always struggled with accuracy. And Kyle Allen I think that he takes more of the dump offs, doesn't necessarily try to go deep if he doesn't have to. And I think that, again, he could be a solid player coming through. He has a decent matchup in Houston against the Texans, who have struggled on defense so far this year. I want to say, looking up right now, they're the sixth worst defense in terms of giving up points to the fantasy points to the quarterback right now. And so it's a decent play for Allen. I think that with the playmakers that he has in DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel and Greg Olsen having a great comeback type of year, and of course Christian McCaffrey running the ball, I think that he could have at least another solid week of production. We'll kind of see where it goes from there. With Cam Newton missing, we'll see how much time he misses with the Liz Frank injury in his foot.
Okay, let's go on to Teddy Bridgewater. He had a pretty good performance out in your backyard. What's your take on him?
Well, Teddy Bridgewater, for the most part, isn't going to lose you games, but he's not necessarily going to win them either. Teddy Bridgewater is a solid backup quarterback. He's a game manager. That's what he was, even when he was with the Vikings. To be completely honest, he was always a game manager. He was averaging 7 yards per pass attempt, 14 pass touchdowns a season, 3,100 yards passing. He wasn't a throw the ball around the yard type of guy, and that's not what they're asking him to be necessarily right now. I think what helps him out is the fact that he has Alvin Kamara, who can take dump-off passes, 60 yards per touchdown. Is slippery enough to get out of defenders to be able to break tackles. And so Teddy Bridgewater, in terms of fantasy value, I think that he is more of a deeper league. So you're looking at like 14 to 16 team leagues. He might be a bye week option for the few weeks that we have left before Drew Brees comes back. Looking at who they are playing this week. Who is it? Thought I had that right in front of me. New Orleans. They're playing at home against Dallas in Sunday Night Football. And so Dallas has a decent front seven. So this is not exactly a game that I would love to use Teddy Bridgewater as a fantasy option. He may have better weeks coming up. But for right now, he's not a guy that I'm in love with for fantasy right now.
All right, when you talk about Bridgewater, two players come to mind, okay? Does Jared Cook benefit by Bridgewater being in the lineup, and will Michael Thomas be able to go ahead and put up some pretty monster-type numbers?
Jared Cook, here's the thing with Jared Cook. In general, we were down on Jared Cook this year simply because of the lack of passing to the tight end over the last few years, even from Drew Brees. And while it looked like it was possibly going to be a big deal for Bridgewater passing to Jared Cook, I want to say he had 7 targets in the first game, or in week 2 when Bridgewater came in. He only had, I want to say, 2 targets in this last game. Really, I think that with Bridgewater, they're going to do their best to focus on getting the ball to Michael Thomas and to Alvin Kamara. I think Alvin Kamara is the one that, while we all thought that Kamara was going to lose some value, I think Kamara keeps his value because he's going to get all the dump offs. He is going to, they're going to run him still. They're going to run a lot of screen passes with him. Michael Thomas is not going to have as many catches and as many yards as he normally would with Drew Brees. That's just the way it is.
Right.
They're not going to pass as much. They're going to keep everything really a lot closer to the line of scrimmage for Teddy Bridgewater. And so, because of that, Thomas is going to lose a little bit of value, but he is not going to be unusable in fantasy. He's going to, instead of being that elite wide receiver 1 that you expect almost every week, he's going to be more along that back-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 in his regular production. So, from wide receiver 8 to 14, he'll be kind of in that range each week until Drew Brees comes back.
Okay, let's talk about pointers for making money playing the daily fantasy sports.
Okay, so here's the thing. I am just getting into, for the most part, into daily fantasy. And so I've done my best to learn from guys that I know play daily a lot. I've worked with a couple of lineup providers, writing lineups and kind of learning from them on how to develop solid lineups for daily fantasy. And just kind of through that and my own experiences getting into it this year, I have a few kind of pointers that I've come up with. The first thing is if you've never played daily fantasy, and for someone like me who lives in a state that it's illegal, I cannot play for money living in the state of Washington. That being said, there are sites like Yahoo, like DraftKings, that run regular free contests that anyone in the 50 states, as long as you're older than 21, you can play in. So you can submit lineups, and that's where I would start, especially if you're just getting into it. Learn how to create the lineups and learn the lineup structure and the salary structure for lineups, because it's very different from platform to platform. DraftKings is a full point PPR league, and you get I think it's $50,000, and each player has its own salary, $50,000 to put together a 9-person team. While FanDuel is half point PPR, but you also have a kicker. So it's like $5,400, or maybe it's $55,000 to put together a 10-person team because you have the kicker involved. And Yahoo, it's nine players also. They don't use the kicker, but it's a $200 salary. So the salary structure is completely different. And so what I would do is, if you can, play free games and play on as many platforms as you can. Submit 2 to 3 lineups to different free contests on those platforms to get used to and figure out which platform you like playing on the best. For me, it's Yahoo. While DraftKings is one of the big ones, I haven't really got into FanDuel all that much. But DraftKings, I've messed around with a little bit, and this year I've really gotten into playing Yahoo lineups. I think with Yahoo, for me, I like the salary structure better, as well as on Yahoo, they've kind of limited the amount that a lot of the sharks can play. So on DraftKings, you play like the big tournaments. It is loaded with all the high roller guys that are submitting like 15, 20, 30 lineups into these contests. Where on Yahoo, you can only submit 10 contests at a time, or 10 lineups into any contest. That's it. You're limited on how much you can submit. They do their best to keep label some of the top players and the veterans so that it makes it easier for you to kind of know, okay, this tournament's full of sharks, I'm going to move over to a different one. So you've got those kind of options to work with. The next tip that I would give is, once you've kind of figured out what platform you want to play on, there are two main types of games that you can play. You can play cash games or 50-50 games, where all it is you have to finish in the top half of that tournament, and you'll double your money. Minus what little fee they have to take out for running the contest. The other type of games are called GPPs, or guaranteed prize pools. These are the big tournaments where it doesn't matter, they'll limit the entries to the first 200,000 entries, but if only 100,000 sign up, they're still giving away all those prizes. It's guaranteed this is going to be the prize pool for this tournament. The guaranteed prize pools, the GPPs, those are basically at this point lottery tickets to play in those. And so what I've kind of learned from many DFS veterans is that stay in the cash games. Play the games where you only have to finish in the top half and build up a bankroll that way. Continue to play in those. Play if you want to play a little bit higher, the higher money, cash games where it's $20 and you'll end up, winning 38 if you finish in the top half. That's fine. Keep doing that. Play within your means and keep playing in those kind of games. Once you've built up a cash, bankroll of, $100 to $200 in your DFS, in DFS, then you can start playing tournaments. But at that point, you only want to use about 10% of your bankroll for tournaments. And then you build it up again and keep playing the cash games. Doing that, really, it's in a way you can kind of it's diversifying your portfolio. Think of it that way. You play the safe stuff for as much as possible, and then you use a little bit for the riskier stuff. Possibly it works out, possibly it doesn't, but you're not risking everything. I know people that say, DFS sucks, I hate it, I don't understand how people can just give away their money like that. Well, when all you're doing is trying to win the big tournaments,